Evan Hawley lived in a small wooden house on the edge of a quiet alien forest, but his life was anything except peaceful. He was a lonely human father who worked long hours, cooked simple dinners, and pretended he was fine. He always told his daughters Lena and Mara that everything was okay. But inside he felt an empty space that kept growing every day. He missed laughter. He missed warmth. He missed someone who could share life with him. His daughters were the only bright lights he had, and he protected them with everything he had. One evening, the sun sank behind the purple hills, leaving a weak golden glow on the ground. Evan stood by the stove, flipping bread on a pan. He kept glancing at the door because his daughters should have been home before sunset. They always returned on time, but today they were late, and something inside him began to tighten. He checked the clock again. He walked to the window. Looking out at the darkening forest, the wind carried strange sounds that made him uneasy. The forest was not safe after nightfall, and he knew it. Then he heard footsteps, fast and uneven. Evan rushed to the door and pulled it open. His daughters stood there, breathless, their clothes dusty, their eyes wide with fear. But that was not what froze him. Standing behind them was a tall alien woman, her skin glowing faint blue, her dark hair falling over her shoulders like wet silk. She looked tired, scared, and almost ready to collapse. Evan had never seen someone like her before. Not this close. Not this fragile, not this beautiful. Lena grabbed his arm and whispered, "Dad, we need to help her." Mara nodded quickly, her small hands shaking. Evan stared at the alien woman as she slowly stepped forward. She opened her mouth, but her voice was so soft it sounded like a breeze passing through broken glass. "Please, do not send me back," she said. Evan blinked, unsure if he heard correctly. Before he could ask anything, the woman's knees weakened, and she almost fell. Evan caught her just in time. Her skin felt warm but trembling, light pulsed from strange marks across her arms, glowing brighter every second, as if reacting to fear. The daughters tried to explain everything at once, but their voices overlapped. He managed to hear a few words escape. Pod. Forest. Someone chasing her. Evan felt his heart race. He looked at the alien woman again. Her face carried pain but also deep fear. Fear so strong, it made him take a step back. Then a loud sound tore through the sky. Evan looked up. A dark aircraft passed above the house, moving slowly, scanning the ground with harsh white light. His daughters clung to him. The alien woman's glowing markings flickered rapidly. She whispered, "They are hunting me." Her eyes filled with tears. She was trying so hard to hold back. Evan felt the air shift around them, as if danger itself was standing at the door. With them, he pulled her inside and shut the door quickly. The daughters pushed the curtains closed. Evan locked every window. His heartbeat thundered in his chest. The woman leaned against the wall, breathing hard. "If they find me, all of you will be in danger," she said. Evan wanted to ask who they were, but he heard something outside. Shadows moved across his yard, long, thin shadows that did not belong to anything human. The sound of mechanical footsteps echoed softly, as if metal was walking on soft dirt. Evan felt a cold fear crawl up his spine. He looked at the alien woman. She looked back at him, her eyes begging for trust. He did not know her. He did not know what trouble she brought. But he knew one thing. His daughters had chosen to help her, and he could not turn away now. "You're safe here," he said. Even though he did not fully believe it himself, her eyes widened, as if she had not heard kindness in a long time. Ground trembled slightly. The aircraft returned, sweeping the area again. A deep humming sound grew louder. Every instinct inside Evan screamed to hide, protect, and survive. The alien woman's markings glowed brighter, lighting the dark room with a soft blue color. The daughters stood close to her, holding her hands. Evan watched them and felt something shift inside him. A strange feeling, a dangerous feeling, hope, mixed with fear outside. A cold voice shouted in a strange alien language, followed by the sound of scanners activating. Evan swallowed hard. He knew whatever was coming was powerful. And it was coming for her. The quiet life he lived was over. Something unimaginable had entered his home tonight, and whatever happened next would change everything. The alien woman rested on the old couch, her breathing slow but shaky. Evan kept watching her, trying to understand what danger his daughters had dragged home. The house felt different now, heavier, as if every wall was listening, as if the darkness outside was waiting to swallow them the moment they trusted silence. Lena and Mara sat close to the woman, touching her arm gently like she was a wounded animal that needed comfort. Evan noticed how the woman flinched each time he moved, not because she feared him, but because she feared everything around her. "What is your name?" Evan asked softly, not wanting to scare her more. She lifted her head slowly, her eyes glowing faint blue under the dim lamp. "Cerise," she whispered. The name sounded strange but beautiful, like a forgotten melody. Evan nodded, trying to show he meant no harm. Cerise looked at his daughters with soft eyes. "You saved me," she said to them. Lena smiled nervously while Mara held Cerise's hand tighter. Evan felt something warm inside him, seeing how quickly his daughters trusted this stranger, but that warmth was crushed by the fear still crawling in his chest. Cerise tried to sit up but winced in pain. Evan moved closer. "Don't push yourself," he said. She looked at him with fear and gratitude mixed together. "I will not stay long," she whispered. "I only need to hide until they leave." Evan wanted to ask who they were again, but suddenly he heard a faint clicking sound near his back window. He froze. The daughters stiffened. Cerise's markings glowed bright for a moment, almost like a warning. Evan walked to the window slowly and peeked through a small opening between the curtains. His breath hitched. Outside, 3 tall mechanical figures walked slowly through the grass, scanning the ground with sharp red lights. They looked like hunters, built from metal and anger. Their heads rotated silently as they searched the area. Evan stepped back, fear pounding inside him. "They are close," Cerise whispered, her voice trembling. "Who are they?" Evan asked again, his voice barely holding steady. Cerise hesitated, as if speaking the truth might break her. "Dominion hunters," she said. "They track fugitives. Like me." Evan felt a chill spread through his whole body. He thought fugitives were criminals, but Cerise did not look like a criminal at all. She looked like someone who had run for her life until her soul was tired. "Why are they after you?" he asked. Cerise lowered her head as if ashamed. "Because I know something I should not know," she said. "And they want to silence me." Lena gasped. Mara hugged Cerise tighter. Evan felt anger rising inside him. "Then you're staying here," he said, surprising even himself. Cerise looked at him, confusion filling her eyes. "Why?" she whispered. "Because my daughters brought you here," Evan said. "And because I can't let anyone get hurt." For a moment, silence filled the room. Only the sound of Cerise's shaky breath broke it. She touched the mark on her arm that glowed faintly. Evan wondered if she was in pain or if the glowing was something more. "If I stay, you risk your life," Cerise said. "Your daughters too." Evan looked at his girls. Their faces showed fear, but also determination. They were children, yet they chose kindness over safety. Evan felt proud and terrified at the same time. He moved to the door and checked the locks again. He grabbed an old flashlight and switched it off to avoid any glow leaking outside. The hunters continued moving around the house. The clicking noises grew louder. Cerise closed her eyes as if she could feel them through the walls. "They can sense energy," she whispered. "Your home is old, but it cannot hide me forever." Evan clenched his fists. The thought of those machines entering his home made his stomach twist with rage and fear. Suddenly the clicking stopped. Evan's heart thumped in his ears. He peeked again and saw the hunters looking toward the forest. A bright beam shot across the trees, as if something else caught their attention. Then the hunters walked away slowly, disappearing into the dark woods. Evan let out a breath he didn't know he had been holding. Lena and Mara ran to hug him, but Cerise stayed still, staring at the door with wide, frightened eyes. They will return, Cerise said. They always return. Evan sat across from her. Then tell me what's really happening. He said, no more half answers. Cerise hesitated but nodded slowly. She touched the glowing symbols on her skin. The light pulsed softly as if it were alive. I escaped from the Dominion because I discovered something terrible, she said. A weapon. So powerful it can erase whole colonies. Evan felt his blood turn cold. His daughters gasped softly. Cerise continued. The Dominion plans to use it. And I stole the activation codes to stop them. Evan stared at her in shock. His small, quiet home suddenly felt like the center of a galaxy-sized storm. He rubbed his face, trying to process everything. Cerise looked at him with trembling eyes. If they find me, they will kill me, she whispered. And anyone helping me. Evan looked at his daughters, then at Cerise. The fear inside him was real. But something else grew stronger, a decision forming in his heart. He stood up slowly and said, then we make sure they don't find you. Evan sat silently after hearing Cerise's confession. The room felt heavier than before, as if every word she spoke added another layer of danger around them. Lena and Mara looked at their father with worried eyes. They had never seen Evan so still, so deep in thought. Cerise lowered her head, afraid she had brought too much trouble to this small human home. If you wish me to leave. I understand, she whispered. Her voice trembled, and her markings dimmed as if reflecting her fear. Evan shook his head slowly. If you leave now, those hunters will catch you in minutes, he said. You're safer here. Cerise opened her mouth to protest, but Evan raised a hand gently. You said you stole codes to stop a weapon that can kill entire colonies, he continued. If that's true, you're not a criminal, you're a protector. Cerise's eyes softened, but there was still deep sadness inside them. A protector who was hunted, she said quietly. The daughters sat beside Cerise again. Mara offered her a blanket, while Lena brought her a cup of warm water. Cerise took it with both hands, warming her fingers around it. Humans are strange, she whispered softly. No one has shown me kindness in a long time. Evan felt something twist inside him. He didn't know what life Cerise had escaped, but he could see the exhaustion carved into her bones. Outside, the forest was silent, but that silence felt dangerous. Evan moved to the window again, careful not to make a sound. The hunters were gone, but he knew they weren't far. Cerise watched him with tired eyes. They won't give up, she said. Dominion hunters follow orders without stopping, without sleeping, without mercy. Evan rubbed his forehead, feeling the weight of the situation. Then we need to hide you better, he said. Someplace they can't detect your energy or markings. Cerise looked down at her glowing arms. My markings are from my lineage, she said. They react to danger. Evan blinked. So they're like living warnings? Cerise nodded. Something like that, she whispered. I was born with them, but the Dominion wants to use them. Evan frowned. Use them? Cerise hesitated, then nodded slowly. They amplify energy. My energy, she explained. And if connected to their weapon, it becomes unstoppable. Evan felt a chill go through him. So they need you alive, he said. Alive. But chained, Cerise whispered, her voice breaking. Mara hugged Cerise's arm gently. We won't let them chain you, the small girl said. Cerise gave a faint, broken smile. I believe you want to help, but you are only human children. Evan stepped forward, his voice steady. And I'm their father, he said. You're not alone anymore, Cerise. Something in his tone made Cerise's eyes shine with tears she didn't let fall. She looked at him as if he was something she had never seen before, someone trustworthy. A sudden thud outside made everyone freeze. Evan motioned them to stay quiet. He grabbed a small metal rod he kept near the door. It wasn't much, but it made him feel less helpless. He stepped toward the back of the house, his breath tight. In his chest, Cerise stood slowly, activating a faint energy shield around the girls. Evan peeked through the back window. His heart nearly stopped. A drone hovered just inches above the ground, its red sensor sweeping the area. Evan slowly crouched down, praying it didn't detect heat or sound from inside. The drone scanned for a long moment, then drifted away into the forest. Evan returned to the living room. "It was a drone," he whispered. "They're searching the entire area." Cerise closed her eyes slowly. "They are narrowing the circle," she said. "They will find this house soon." Evan felt anger rising inside him, anger at the Dominion, anger at the fear inside his own home. "What do they want with the weapon?" he asked. "Why build something that can erase life?" Cerise took a shaky breath. "Power," she said. "The Dominion wants total control. If colonies resist, they destroy them. They call it cleansing." Evan's fists tightened. Lena covered her mouth in shock. "And you stole the codes to stop them?" Lena asked. Cerise nodded slowly. "I was a Dominion scholar," she said. "I learned things I was never meant to learn." Her voice cracked. "They killed everyone in my research team when they discovered what we uncovered. I escaped only because I knew a hidden route." Evan sat down slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. Cerise wasn't just running. She was surviving the aftermath of a massacre. "You did the right thing," he said softly, "even if it cost you everything." Cerise looked at him with trembling eyes. "It cost me my world," she whispered. "My family, my home, everything." Evan exhaled, feeling pain for her. "Then let this be your safe place," he said firmly. "At least for tonight." Cerise looked around the room, at the daughters, at Evan, and her markings glowed faintly, not from fear this time, but from something else, something warmer. "I do not deserve your kindness," she whispered. "But I am grateful." Evan nodded. "We'll figure out what to do next," he said. Together, outside, far in the forest, a loud metallic roar echoed through the night. Cerise's markings glowed sharply in response. Evan stared at the dark window, knowing the real danger was coming, and it was coming soon. Evan didn't sleep that night. He sat near the door with a tool in his hand, watching shadows move across the walls. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the red lights of the drones and the fear in Cerise's eyes. Outside, the wind howled through the trees. But Evan knew it wasn't just wind moving out there. Something else was searching, scanning, closing in. Cerise remained near the fireplace, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes open and alert. She hadn't slept either. Lena and Mara had curled up on the couch beside her, trusting her presence more than the safety of their walls. It touched Cerise deeply, but it also made her scared that their trust would bring them harm. She couldn't let that happen. At sunrise, Evan stood up and walked to the small cellar door. He opened it and pointed below. "We'll hide you down there if the hunters return," he said. Cerise nodded slowly. "I will go now," she said. "Better to stay hidden." But Evan raised his hand. "Not yet," he said. "First, we move." Cerise looked at him with confusion. "Move where?" Evan walked toward a small locked cabinet and opened it. Inside was a rolled-up map and an old rifle covered in dust. He spread the map on the table. "There's an abandoned mountain outpost deep in the hills," he said. "It's shielded by natural crystal rocks. No scanners can see through it." Cerise looked at the spot on the map and then at him. "That could work," she said. "If we reach there without being seen." Evan nodded. "That's the hard part," he said. He looked at Lena and Mara. "You two will stay here," he added. But the girls shook their heads. "No, we're going with her," Lena said. "We won't leave her alone." Evan sighed deeply. He knew they had already formed a bond with Cerise that wouldn't break so easily. "All right," he said, "but we move at night, less risk." The day passed slowly, tension heavy in every step they took. They packed light food, warm clothes, and Cerise's small device that glowed faintly with stored data. As the sky turned dark, Evan peeked out and saw no movement, but he still felt eyes in the forest. "Now," he whispered. And they slipped out the back door like shadows. They walked for over an hour, stepping carefully, avoiding broken branches and loud leaves. Cerise kept looking behind them, sensing energy pulses too faint for human eyes. "We are not alone," she whispered. Ivan nodded. He already knew. Deep inside, he felt it too. Something watching them, something patient. Then, a sharp sound sliced through the night. A short, high-pitched pulse like a scanner. Evan spun around. "Run!" he shouted. They bolted through the trees, branches cutting their skin, leaves slapping their faces. Behind them, red lights flashed through the darkness, drones zooming low with speed. They weren't going to make it. Suddenly, Cerise stopped and turned around. Her eyes glowed. Her markings flared with bright light. She raised her hands and a wall of pure energy exploded from her palms, smashing 2 drones into pieces. Sparks flew everywhere. "Keep running," she shouted. Evan grabbed Mara's hand and pulled her forward. Lena stayed close to Cerise. "You didn't tell us you could do that," Lena cried. Cerise didn't answer. Her face was pale, her breath shallow. Her power had a price, and she had just paid part of it. They reached a small rocky path hidden behind thick bushes. Cerise fell to her knees. "We're close," she said. "Just past this ridge." Evan carried her on his back without asking. She was light but shaking. He could feel her heart beating fast, like a wounded bird afraid to die. They climbed the ridge and finally saw the outpost broken stone walls, a shattered tower, and a deep entrance covered by moss and rock. It wasn't much, but it was shelter. Evan placed Cerise down gently and led the girls inside. He sealed the entrance with a rock slab and collapsed against the wall. Breathing hard, inside the outpost, it was cold but safe. No scanners could reach them here. Cerise leaned against the wall, her head resting on Evan's shoulder. "Thank you," she whispered. Evan looked at her. "For what?" he asked. "For running with me," she said. "No one ever runs with me." Evan didn't know what to say, so he just stayed silent, letting her rest. Outside in the forest, a deep rumble shook the trees. Far louder than a drone, a Dominion ship had landed, and something bigger than drones had come with it. Evan looked toward the sound, knowing the real fight was just beginning. Morning came with no sunlight, only thick clouds and cold wind that crept through the cracks in the outpost walls. Evan stood near the doorway, watching the forest below. His body ached from the run, but his mind wouldn't rest. They had survived the night. But the Dominion had landed something bigger, and he could feel the danger pressing closer. Inside, Cerise sat with her back against the wall. Her eyes were closed, her energy low. Her markings had faded, only faint blue lines remained now. Mara placed a warm cloth on her forehead, while Lena tried to offer her bread. Cerise gave them both a weak smile. "You treat me like family," she whispered, "but I am not your kind." "You're kind enough," Lena replied with a small smile. "That's all that matters." Cerise's lips trembled as if the words reached a place inside her no one had touched in years. Evan turned around and walked over, sitting beside her slowly. "You saved us last night," he said. "No one can say you're not one of us now." Cerise looked at him, her eyes soft, her voice nearly a breath. "Do you mean it?" "I do," Evan said without hesitation. He wasn't sure when it had happened, but his heart had changed. At first, Cerise was just a stranger they helped out of fear and kindness. But now she was part of their story, part of their little broken family, and he wasn't going to let her go. The outpost was quiet for most of the morning, but peace never lasted long. Around noon, the ground vibrated gently. Evan stepped outside and scanned the hills. Then he saw it, just a flicker of movement. Black armor and silver helmets moving in a perfect line through the trees. "Hunters," he whispered. "They're back." He rushed inside. "They found our trail," he said. "They're climbing toward us." Cerise forced herself to stand, though her legs were weak. "I'll lead them away," she said. "I can distract them with my energy." Evan shook his head hard. "No," he said. "You're barely standing, you'll die. But if I stay—" "You all will," she replied. Her voice was strong, even if her body wasn't. Lena stepped forward, her voice firm. No one's going anywhere alone. Mara nodded quickly. We stay together. Cerise looked at them in disbelief. Why? She whispered. Why do you keep risking yourselves for me? Evan placed a hand on her shoulder. Because you didn't ask for this war, he said. You're just someone who did the right thing. Like we would. Cerise looked away quickly, trying to hide the tears forming in her eyes. She had spent her life hiding from fear, but no one had ever stood beside her the way this family now did. That afternoon, they prepared the outpost. Evan set traps using old wires and stones. The daughters helped by placing reflective mirrors near the ridge to blind the drones. Cerise stood in the center of the room, her eyes closed, her markings slowly growing brighter as she summoned what little energy she had left. They won't. Stop, she said. They will send their elite next. Evan looked at her. What's the difference? He asked. Cerise opened her eyes slowly. The elites are not machines, she said. They're like me, but twisted by the Dominion, trained to kill with no emotion. No mercy. Evan's face turned hard. Then we fight, he said. With emotion and with mercy. Night fell again, and this time the silence was worse. Too quiet. As if the forest was holding its breath. Suddenly, a crack echoed through the trees, and the air shimmered. A figure stepped into view on the ridge, a tall alien warrior covered in dark armor. His eyes burned orange, and he held a long glowing staff. Cerise gasped. That's Captain Varn, he trained me. Before I escaped. Evan narrowed his eyes. Can he be reasoned with? Cerise shook her head. Not anymore. His heart belongs to the Dominion. The warrior's voice echoed through the mountain, cold and sharp. Return the traitor, or watch your family die. Evan stepped outside slowly, rifle in hand. You'll have to go through me first, he said. Cerise stepped beside him, her glow returning stronger than before, her voice steady. Then through both of us. The daughters stood behind them, hands clenched in fear, but not running, and together. For the first time, they looked like more than just a family. They looked like a force ready to protect each other, no matter what came next. Wind howled across the mountain ridge as Evan stood firm with Cerise by his side. The enemy Captain Varn slowly stepped forward, tall and terrifying. His black armor reflected the moonlight, and his voice echoed like thunder inside their bones. You protect a traitor, he said coldly. You've made her your family. But she was made to destroy you. Evan didn't flinch. She chose to protect, not destroy, he said. That makes her more human than you. Varn's eyes narrowed. You dare compare her to you? A simple father with no army, no power. Evan gripped his old rifle tighter. I have enough power to say no, he said. And I have everything worth fighting for. Behind them, Lena and Mara stood at the entrance of the outpost. Watching their father with wide eyes, they had never seen him speak like that strong. Brave, fearless, Cerise stepped forward, her voice shaking but steady. Varn, I'm not the scared student you trained, she said. You taught me strength, but I found a better kind of strength here. In kindness and love. Varn raised his glowing staff. Then your weakness will kill you, he growled. He pointed it at the outpost. Preparing to attack, suddenly, energy blasts rained down from the Sky Dominion drop pods, slammed into the earth around them. Shaking the mountain, dozens of elite hunters spilled out, their eyes cold, their movements perfect. They surrounded the outpost like wolves around a wounded deer. Inside, Mara pulled Cerise's small device from the bag and stared at the symbols. On its screen, Dad, she shouted, her device. It's flashing red. Cerise looked, and her heart dropped. They activated the signal beacon, she said. They're about to launch the weapon. Evan spun toward her. How far? Is it? Cerise whispered. 2 systems away. But it's real, and once fired, it destroys everything. Evan looked at his daughters. Then we stop it here, he said. Right now. He turned to Cerise. Can that device shut it down? Cerise nodded. Yes, but it needs a direct connection to a Dominion relay. Evan smiled bitterly. You mean one of those glowing boxes the elites carry on their backs? Cerise nodded again. Exactly. Evan looked outside, scanning the battlefield. Then we take one. Cerise grabbed his arm. You'll die if you go alone, she said. Evan looked her in the eyes. Then come with me, for a moment. Everything paused, the danger, the fear, it all faded, and Cerise nodded. Let's finish what we started. Evan handed a small blaster to Lena. If anything happens. You protect your sister, he said. Lena's voice broke. Don't go, Evan smiled softly. We're not going far, just a little walk through chaos. Then they moved. Evan and Cerise burst from the entrance, blasting through two soldiers. With surprise, Varn roared and signaled his hunters. Capture them alive. He shouted. Evan and Cerise ran through the trees, dodging blasts, jumping over fallen logs. Her markings flared again with power, and she threw up energy shields to block incoming fire. There! Evan shouted, pointing at a Dominion elite. With a relay unit glowing on his back, Cerise charged, her feet barely touching the ground. She knocked the elite back with a shockwave and grabbed the relay. Cover me! She yelled. Evan turned and fired at the others chasing them. The blast from his rifle hit the dirt near their feet, slowing them just enough. Cerise connected her device to the relay and pressed her hand on the screen. Lights flickered, then a loud beep echoed through the air. I'm in, she cried, uploading shutdown code. But Varn appeared like a shadow in front of them, his staff crackling with energy. You think you can stop what has already begun? He growled. Evan stepped forward, placing himself between Cerise and the captain. She's not alone, he said. Varn struck with his staff, and Evan blocked it with his rifle, the weapon breaking in half from the force. But Evan didn't move. He stood like a wall, refusing to let Varn pass. Cerise screamed. Her energy burst in outward, lifting Varn off the ground and slamming him into the rocks. The code uploaded, and her device turned green. It's done, she said. The weapon is shut down. The remaining hunters hesitated, unsure what to do. Their mission had failed. Their captain was down slowly. They began to retreat, disappearing into the night. Evan dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Cerise fell beside him, wrapping her arms around him. You stopped them, she whispered. No, Evan said, smiling weakly. We did. Behind them, Lena and Mara ran through the trees, crying, hugging their father and Cerise. They weren't just a family by blood anymore. They were a family. By choice, by battle, by something stronger than fear. And above them, the stars sparkled quietly, as if they too had been watching and were proud. Silence fell over the mountain as the last Dominion dropship vanished into the dark sky. Smoke curled from the broken trees, and scorched marks covered the ground where energy blasts had hit. The air smelled like ash and ozone, but also peace. Evan sat with his back against a rock, his shirt torn, his hands trembling from the fight. Cerise knelt beside him, still glowing faintly, though her power was nearly gone. Her markings flickered like dying stars, but her eyes were calm. Now you saved the galaxy, Evan said softly. She shook her head. We saved each other. He smiled, tired but proud. Not bad for a lonely father and an alien fugitive. Cerise leaned her head against his shoulder. You're not lonely anymore, she whispered. And I'm not a fugitive. Not to you. Lena and Mara reached them moments later. Running down the hill with tears in their eyes, Mara threw herself into Evan's arms. Hugging him tight, Lena hugged Cerise. You came back, Cerise said, her voice shaking. Of course. Lena replied, You're one of us now. The four of them sat there for a while, just breathing, just being together. No one spoke. They didn't need to. The war might not be over everywhere, but for them. The fight was done. The next morning, a Federation scout ship landed nearby, drawn by the energy spike Cerise's device had sent when she uploaded the shutdown code. A human officer stepped out, scanning the scene with wide eyes. We picked Up Dominion activity, he said. But it looks like someone already handled it. Evan stood beside Cerise, who now wore a cloak to cover her faded markings. We just protected our home, Evan replied. The officer looked at Cerise, clearly, recognizing her species, but not treating her like a threat. You helped stop the Dominion's weapon. He said, you'll be protected now. We'll send word to Allied Systems. Cerise nodded slowly, unsure whether to believe it, but Evan placed a hand on her shoulder, grounding her, reminding her she wasn't alone. Not anymore, they returned to their old home weeks later. The outpost had been safe, but Evan wanted his daughters to sleep in their own beds again. The house was dusty, the garden overgrown, but it was still theirs. The table where they once ate in silence was now filled with laughter and voices. And at the head of that table sat Cerise, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. She helped fix the roof, planted flowers in the yard with Mara, and learned to cook with Lena. Evan taught her how to use human tools, and she taught him alien stories. From her world, one night, while watching the stars, Cerise whispered, "Do you think I belong here?" Evan looked at her. "You belong with us," he said. "Wherever we are, that's your home too." Her eyes shimmered in the starlight, and for the first time since she crashed, she believed it. Months passed, and the Dominion lost control. In many systems, the code Cerise had stolen exposed secret plans, and the weapon she had stopped never launched again. She became known across galaxies as the spark that refused to die. But in her heart, she was just Cerise, the woman who had been saved by 2 brave children and a stubborn father. One evening, Mara sat on Evan's lap and asked, "Is Cerise our mom now?" Evan laughed, a little surprised. He looked at Cerise, who sat quietly across the room, reading an old book in human language. She looked up, her eyes meeting his. She smiled, not politely, not shyly, but warmly, like someone who was no longer lost. Evan looked back at his daughter. "She's someone who loves us," he said. "That's what matters." Lena leaned on the couch. "Then that means she's family," she said. Cerise heard them, and her smile turned into something stronger, something real. She stood, walked over, and sat beside Evan, placing her hand gently on his. "I never knew what family meant," she said, "until I met you." Evan looked at her, his voice soft. "And I never knew how empty my life was," he said, "until you filled it." That night they sat under the stars again, this time together. No fear, no hunters, no past to run from, just a family born from kindness, courage, and choice. A human who opened his door, 2 children who opened their hearts, and an alien woman who finally had a place to belong.